Well, Happy New Year and welcome in, everybody, to Sportsbook Confessions. I'm Brady Tinker at DFW Sports Beat alongside my good friend Jeffrey Dawson at EC Sports Invest. Happy New Year's, friend. We've been texting, but I haven't seen you. How was Christmas Day, and then how were the New Year's?
I like to say survive in advance. As the girls get older and the family gets older, it's all about the kids. And we survived in advance. Great breakfast, great dinner. The new year was flying solo. Kept the tradition, though, in the office with the Chinese food, Stooges marathon on one TV, and the college football games in the other. So we survived in advance.
That sounds pretty fun. Excellent. All right. Well, we haven't talked to the folks in a while. There have been a ton of really good bowl games. We are now on the precipice of the NCAA championship game. We have about 10 or 11 NFL games that really have meaning to them this week. So let's get through all that for folks. Then I want to throw out a little bit about what's happening in the NBA, and certainly we'll talk about near tragedy that happened in the Buffalo and Cincinnati game. But before we get to all that, let's start with a few reflections before we do our confessions and sort of give everybody an idea of where there might be some angles for them to bet this week. Congratulations, by the way, to you as we head into the new year on a wonderful 2022 and the tips and the handicapping that you did individually. You were phenomenal.
Hey, that's, we take it day by day. We read the market. We're a numbers organization team here. We've been doing it now for 8 years. January 1st was our 8th-year anniversary since we went public. We feel that we do read the market very, very well. We do look at trends. We do look at angles. But anytime we can help, educate, put a little money in your pocket, we do our best.
And you do it well. A few brief reflections. The NCAA Bowls had some interesting results for me, and I want to get some feedback from you. LSU 63-7 over Purdue, certainly announcing that they will be a presence in the SEC next year.
Purdue was missing a lot of key players for them. When I saw the number of minus 14, I was like, OMG, their team total was 34 and a half. I think they got it at halftime at 35-0, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Even with a little help from Drew Brees on the other side, it didn't matter. Hats off to Brian Kelly. Lose the first game of the year to Florida State, had a big win against Bama, which I think you had a lot to do with yourself, and then was situated with the potential of getting an opportunity to go to the Final Four. Obviously, that didn't happen. Huge year, though, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the SEC next year.
I think there were personal repercussions from my calling the two losses for Alabama. We'll get to those in a minute. Tulane beats USC 46-45. Impressive win for USC. And makes me wonder a little bit, or excuse me, for Tulane, makes me wonder a little bit about USC and how the season ended for them. Or was it enough for this coaching staff to come in here and get done what they got done?
I think it was enough. There was dreams with a couple weeks left of them potentially going to the Final Four. Lincoln comes in. He took the early season loss, a midseason loss at Utah with a 2-point conversion. They cheat, and then they were just a step away. Great quarterback, great offense, defense a little skeptical. That's what the Pac-12 is all about. The line smelt to holy heaven to me. USC was 1.5 2-point favorites. That was a typical pros versus Joes where the public was all in on, of course, USC. Listen, Tulane late score for the backdoor cover and outright win, but it was a hell of a game.
Some of these games for these teams, win or lose, were great for their programs. Tulane playing USC in a major bowl and winning. All they really had to do was compete and play a great game for it to be a big boom from them, I would think, recruiting-wise and in many other ways. I feel the same about K-State getting to play Alabama. We'll get to that. Penn State over Utah. It's a nice win for Dave's guys, 35-21. I know he was happy about that game. Utah, we know, is always ready to play football, so that was a nice win.
Yeah, that was one of those games where if you watch the opening line, Utah was -1, 1.5, 2. Talked about it on our shows leading up to it. I smelt the tide turning. I smelt the numbers going to flip. Woke up on the day of the game, and Penn State was 1.5, 2-point favorites. The Sharps, the bad guys, whatever you want to call them, came in, and they were right. Listen, it was a little grab ass back and forth to start, then a 88-yard touchdown pass for a touchdown by Utah. Next possession, an 87-yard touchdown run, and the rest was history. So big win for Penn State. Their only 2 losses this year, Michigan and Ohio State. So hats off to Mr. Franklin and the Lions.
No doubt. Kansas State, one of the other teams I was talking about that got a lot out of playing a game against Alabama, not to mention winning the Big 12. Terrific season for them. They ruined TCU's perfect season, although TCU still has a chance to win it all. So really big opportunity for K-State. They hung around early and went forward on 4th down with an opportunity right before half to actually take the lead. And their quarterback missed a wide open throw. And after that, it was all downhill for Alabama. While I had a feeling Alabama was going to lose a couple of games early, doesn't mean I don't think they're a good program or we're a good team. And I think their quarterback should certainly be the first pick in the draft. I watch him, and he may be 2 inches shorter than you want him to be. But I'll tell you what, in the SEC, playing against the best competition his entire career, it seems like his heartbeat is the same all the time. He doesn't miss a lot of throws. He doesn't miss a lot of reads. He probably audibles in and out of more plays than any quarterback in the NCAA. And he just looks to me like the total package that I would believe in. If I was Houston, that's who I'd be picking.
You know, this game shifted. It looked like K-State was going to be that public trendy dog catching around. It opened at 6, went right down to 5.5. Right. Then Bryce Young and Willie Anderson, I think, shocked the world, saying, hey, we're going to play. We're going to stand up for this university. Line closed at right around 7. Alabama early and often. As you said, the play before the half. Thanks for playing after that.
Yep.
Hats off to Bama. Again, you know, the only thing that I had a hard time swallowing, especially me, I had that 3-team parlay for $11,000 with Houston Astros, with Bama, with the Bills, is the fact they lost 2 games. No one has been in the Final Four with 2 losses. Granted, both on the road, one on a 2-point conversion, one on a walk-off field goal. So was Alabama one of the best 4 teams in the country? Yes, they were. Unfortunately, they were a team with 2 losses, and the 4 teams in there at most had 1 loss.
I think there's a chance that K-State loss is probably my fault, and I'll take it. Graduating from Kansas State as I did, the Alabama guys were aware of all that, and were putting that right in my face. TCU over Michigan, part of the beginnings of the Final Four. This was a fantastic game. It was a fantastic game, and I wasn't absolutely sure TCU could hang. I knew we were going to see, but I wasn't sure they could hang. And early in the game, you could tell mid first into early second, you could tell TCU was up for this. It also looked a little bit to me like Michigan was a little shell-shocked, like their coach, who had been praising TCU all along, saying they're a scoring machine, right? Prior to the game. I mean, he was giving them all the accolades. I had a feeling the players, and you could even see the fans saying, they're this good. They really are this good. This is going to be a game. And by the time the Rocky Bell sounded for them, it was on. And it was a wonderful game to watch.
Yeah. And listen, you can't win a game. The touchdown overturned. It was a touchdown. Okay. Yeah, but you had it first and goal from the 1/4-inch line. I'm sorry. You got 4 chances to lean in and get a touchdown. You can't fumble that. Plus the 2 pick sixes. Listen, Max was not that good in that game. Their defense, though, showed how fast they really were. It was an amazing game. We had the team total over 27.5. We got it right at halftime. No, the start of the 3rd quarter. Yeah. An amazing game up and down. Hats off to both teams. I'm telling you, even though Michigan lost, it wasn't because of the refs. You had a million opportunities. Yeah. Back-to-back great years for the Wolverines.
And hats off to both those quarterbacks. While Max wasn't outstanding statistically, I still thought he absolutely led them. And Michigan's young quarterback, I wasn't sure. I even said, I think Michigan wins and then maybe gets run by Georgia because he can't keep up. In the middle of that game, I was sending out as many tweets as I could about how both quarterbacks were absolutely amazing. They had chances to roll over. They had chances to be hit with a right or left that bothered them. Neither one of them were bothered, and they all kept coming. And both really, as we can see, led by their quarterbacks, because the final score is 51-45.
Absolutely. And I tell you, the TCU team is just like one of those, I like to say, scabs that won't go away. They just, you think you got them knocked out and they just keep coming and coming and coming. Now they're 12 and a half, 13-point dogs on Monday against Georgia. We'll get to that. But they started the year, Brady, 200-1. And if anyone's holding that ticket, please make sure that you hedge somehow, some way, please.
Yes. Okay, before we get to Georgia TCU, let's talk about Georgia Ohio State. Again, Ohio State came into the game, and I think all of us felt like, are they dragging this thing around of maybe they shouldn't be there, right? They heard about it from a lot of people. Getting whipped so decidedly by Michigan, maybe Bama should have been there. Maybe somebody else should have been there. They drug it around. They talked about it. The media pressed them on it all week before. And I thought early on, I'm like, I want to see. And I think Georgia felt the same way, and Ohio State felt the same way. And finally, Ohio State got going pretty quickly, same as TCU did. And all of a sudden, you could see Ohio State was ready. They were up for the game. I thought, I mentioned several times during the game, as this game continued to seem to go bad for Georgia, Kirby Smart, to me, as I watched and listened, had every answer that a head coach could have. He thwarted a fake punt. He called timeouts at exactly the right time. He seemed to press every button, and I loved everything Kirby Smart did in the game until right after the game, when he basically stood in front of everybody after getting to the championship game and said, my effing quarterback's got to be better. He's got to play within my system. It's got to go my way. I don't really have any problem with that. But I don't really want him telling everyone in the fucking world that about my quarterback after I just won the game. Even if he had 2 or 3 mistakes that were outside the scope of Kirby's genius, that part pissed me off. I really did. I thought that was awful. Maybe that's motivational. Maybe he knows that his young quarterback will react well to that. Maybe that's how that works. Maybe he knows. But I thought it was kind of bullshit. And I thought, now that I'm saying that, Georgia was kind of fucking lucky. And I also want to say, I kind of wish they'd lost. There.
Well, in a nutshell, right before, let's go halftime, when Kirby was interviewed before he went to the locker room, he was asked, Kirby, what'd you say to the QB? He goes, well, I told him this. He said, we're going to need you into the second half. After he threw that second down pass right in the middle, almost picked off, we're going to shut it down. We're going to regroup. We need you in the second half. Now, I said on my timeline, people can go back on my timeline here. He had the yips. And people say, what do you mean by the yips? If you watched him in the third quarter, he'd step back. He'd look at his first read. He'd look at his second read. And it was like carking. He was afraid to throw another interception. And the problem that I saw that they were going to have leading up to this game is defensively, they wanted to play one-on-one with the wide receivers. They had never seen, listen, Tennessee is gifted at wide receiver. There's some other teams with good wide receivers. They hadn't seen a Marvin Harrison Jr. yet. They have not seen the C.J. Stroud. And you want to talk about a cool cucumber, Brady. He was never once rattled. He was not. And he made a lot of money on that game. I'm not saying anyone that was slam dunking Bryce Young as a number one is going to at least look back at that tape and say, wow, he made all the throws. I think the world's off their shoulder. They had their scare. I think it will be early and often here, but hats off to Ohio State. They took their second lease on life. They had the game won. You could say the targeting call, Marvin Harrison out for the end of that game. It is what it is, but you had an opportunity to win the game, a long field goal, but a great, great opportunity and a great season for Ohio State.
Agreed. All right, let's get to the championship game. Number 3 TCU, which I guess if there was a vote, they wouldn't be number 3. They'd be number 2. Versus number 1 Georgia. Georgia, a 12.5-point favorite. The over and under at 62.5. TCU, we know, will not catch Georgia off guard. Whether they believed it prior to the game against Michigan, they believe it now. They've seen it all year. They will not be caught off guard. If there is, in my view, a place where you can get Georgia a little bit, it's in their secondary. So I anticipate TCU, if they can block them up good enough, coming out and firing from the get-go, realizing it's probably going to take at least 40 to beat this Georgia team, and scoring 40 against Georgia is a tall answer or ask. Either one.
I think you're reading my playbook here. We had Julian Edlow on earlier this week from DraftKings, and I think he put up 37.5, maybe 38. I says Georgia's scoring in the 40s here. I think it is early enough, and I think they're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to throw the ball, but defensively, they're going to be able to slow down TCU. As I said, the world's off their shoulders. Georgia now is the team with the second lease of life. They were within a field goal to be watching this game. Now they got an opportunity to do something no one's done in a while, and that's to repeat. And listen, I am personally not going to be laying the 12.5. We talked about before the Final Four started. If you like Georgia, grab them minus the 130 to win the whole tournament. Mm-hmm. You can go back and grab TCU right now, plus 13. You can grab them plus 400 on the money line if you want. I just will tell everyone watching and listening right now, go check your book, your casino, your barbershop, wherever you go take the Georgia team total over, and you'll thank me by the start of the fourth quarter.
Send him a card. I'll give you his address. NFL week number 18 is upon us. A reflection to begin with on Damar Hamlin and what all of us saw. We're parents. I couldn't imagine any of it. All you can think of as a human, all I could think of is, oh no, this can't happen. My sports brain was like, has this ever happened before? The answer is sort of. I've lost my date, 71 or 74, a Detroit Lion wide receiver literally had a heart attack on the field during the game. Don't know whether it was the causation was a hit at some point during the game. I don't know that, but that's the only player to ever have that happen. In our age group, I mostly remember the Jack Tatum, Darryl Stingley paralyzation, and I was watching that game, and I was young, but I remember that the Raiders were a badass team with a reputation of being a little bit dirty, and so that hit me as a kid that someone, laid there on the ground and flatly wasn't going to get up. And I remember that vividly, but nothing like how I felt about Damar Hamlin, because I think we were all acutely aware that at some point this kid essentially died on the field. And the way that it hit the players, the way that it's affected the game, the weeks, what's happening with the NFL, all of that doesn't mean anything. It's so good to know that late on this Thursday night as we tape that we've got something amazing. He has made remarkable improvement that you could attribute to the people who saved him, his own will to live, the fact that he's just barely 24 years old, all of those things, and his natural strength probably that he has as an NFL football player. He neurologically is sound. As I understand it, there were conversations today sitting up in a bed. I'll tell you a story, a brief one. I did some golf shows a few years back on ESPN radio here in Dallas, and all of them, we had two different names for whatever reason, but all of them were with a former PGA Tour pro named Joel Edwards, who went to the University of North Texas, who played 17 years on the tour, who was very successful, won lots of money, enjoyed a good career, won one time. But I was introduced to him, and somebody said, hey, we want you to do a golf show with him, and he'll tell stories, and he still knows all the venues and a lot of the players, and we really had a great time. And a couple of years in, I get a call one morning that says that Joel had either a heart attack or a minor stroke in his car while driving, and had hit a pole, not going extremely fast, maybe 25 or so, and was out and was in the hospital and was almost called. They almost called it, but they brought him back. And I went through the holidays of November and all of December back and forth to this hospital, to this ICU unit here in Plano, this amazing heart hospital. He never knew I was there. I would go with other people. We would sit, and I just felt like somehow he would feel the support. And it was very similar. They put him into a sleep, as they told us they did with Damar when they got him there, sort of a purposely induced coma, to be able to try and get him relaxed, to get his heartbeat the same, get his breathing the same. And the other thing then they did with Joel was day after day, there were doctors coming in who were checking his kidney function, checking his liver function, checking his heart, checking all of it. And what they didn't know through the whole time was, other than brain waves, was he out too long, and did he have brain damage? That's what we were all waiting for. And would he ever wake up? They put him under, and then they sort of put him in a position where, okay, we're lessening that, he can wake up. And he didn't wake up. for a couple of weeks. And I vividly remember a nurse, I won't go any further than that because she wasn't really supposed to be telling me, but she'd seen me around, saying, at this point, like you've seen on TV and movies, it's kind of up to him. We need him and his body and all of his heart and everything to wake up and to want to live. And that's where they were at. So I was afraid we were going to go through something similar with this young man, that we might be here months not knowing, and his parents, right? And his teammates and his friends and his loved ones, all just living and dying every day with, is this beloved young man of ours going to come back? So for him to come back and be okay and have a prognosis that looks great is amazing. And it absolutely grabbed not all the sports world, but I think everybody on even our side or on the fan side too. Everybody was affected. And I don't know, but I haven't seen that much kindness and caring in our world in the last couple of years. And I did when this young man had this accident.
Monday night for me is bowling night, and I left the lanes, and I got about a 20-minute ride from Falmouth to Marston's Mills. And I got the phone up on the magnet, and I just check in, and I saw T. Higgins' 8-9 yard catch. Went back 5 minutes later, and I saw T. Higgins' same catch. I'm like, okay. 3 minutes later, I check, and then I get a text from our beloved producer, Kiefer, says, did you see the video? Do you see what's going on? And I'm like, no, I'm on my way home. What's going on? He sends me the video, and I play it, and I'm like, holy shit. Then me and Kiefer talked to each other before I got home. I get home, the game's not on. I put the game on, and the wife's trying to talk to me, and it's like Charlie Brown, like wah, 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 wah. And I'm like, I'm trying to focus here and see what's
That's
going
actually
on.
Charlie Brown's school teacher, by the way, too.
Yes. Wah, 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 wah. And the look on Josh Allen's face, Stephon Diggs' face, some of the players. Now, we have seen players get hurt and the teammates or the opposing team point right away. They hear the bone snap, and next thing you know, the ambulance, they're down there. They get them on a stretcher, and what do? We wait for 10 minutes, and then we wait for the thumbs up. And this time, as you said, he basically died on the field, and they're performing CPR. They're trying to revive him, to bring him back, and the team just is watching this. And I give thumbs up and hats off to ESPN, to, I think it was Susie, I think it was Booger, I think it was Shefty, because no one's been put in that spot. And you don't know what to say, and you don't want to say something like Skip Bayless, who's an ass, okay? And I'll just stop right there, because I went off on Twitter on it, same as a million other people. But we've never been there. And as you said, day by day, this kid had a toy fund that had $1,700 or something for a $2,500 goal. And I think last time I saw it was well over $5 million. So as you said, the only time I remember a community or someone coming together like that, you know what I remember was when TJ Watt did after the hurricane. Was it a big hurricane or flood in Texas? And he started it, and he was able to get millions and millions of dollars. Obviously, I'm not comparing the two, but for having the world or the U.S. to come together today to find out that kind of information. And I guess last night, the doctors, he held some hands, and the doctors, he asked who won, and the doctor looked at him, he goes, you did. He goes, the game of life. You won the game of life.
It's fantastic. And I guess I did not finish my story in saying that my friend Joel Edwards did wake up. It was literally about the 55th day. He'd lost, of his 190 pounds, he was down to about 120. But I got a text. Joel's awake and talking to the doctor. And I just remember just sobbing and just like screaming euphorically. And it was just whatever. His mom was there and was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital with him. I have 5 kids. You have kids. I can't imagine. We all have that little bitty nightmare, right? It can't be any of our kids before us, selfishly. It just can't. So the whole thing was traumatic as hell. Now on to sports, and let's address at this point what we know, what it does to the NFL and to the AFC. as we sit here today, all I know is it looks like there are two viable options for the AFC. There's no way they could ask those two teams to take a day and get themselves back to Cincinnati to play a game and then be ready to play again on Sunday. The NFL's not moving entire playoff games a week or the Super Bowl or anything else. These schedules are set. You have, don't forget, you have a Players Association that is extraordinarily powerful. The NFL itself schedules. There are a lot of things that we're going to work against this game ever getting finished. Whether or not the NFL and the officials said to the players, okay, 5 minutes, we're back on the field. I hope not. But if they did, I have a feeling that when you're on the field in that setting, you're an official and a human, you don't really know what to do. And there was some sort of semi-protocol on something along this line that basically said sort of everyone gets their time, which they felt like they had. And then you say, we got TV, we got sponsors to pay, we got shit to do. Okay, I'm giving you a 5-minute call to play. If it happened, if the head official or whoever it was said that, then he did. I would imagine on a script, not because he's some sort of robot that doesn't give a damn. And I don't really need an answer to that, to be honest with you. I think the NFL has been a little evasive about whether or not that happened, and I'm okay with that too. But now there's a situation that is marginally unfair to the Bills and Cincinnati potentially, and beneficial to the Chiefs. It looks like that they will. And I'm being straight up. You know, I'm a Chiefs fan, but I don't want anything like this to happen. I wanted that game to play out. And the truth was, as a Chiefs fan, they're not playing well enough anyway. So they're going to have to run through most likely both of these teams to get to the Super Bowl. So and they also aren't a team that has to win, has to be at home to win. So I wasn't that, Chiefs have to be a number one seed, and then they're certainly going to the Super Bowl. I don't feel that way. But as we went into that game, the Bills are the number one seed. If they win that game, they're probably going to be the number one seed. If the Bengals win and the Chiefs lose on Sunday, then they have a chance to be the number one seed as well. And you have three phenomenally really good teams in the AFC. Now it looks like the Chiefs will be the number one seed by default if they beat the Raiders on Sunday by having the highest winning percentage, because neither Cincinnati nor Buffalo could get to that percentage because they've played one less game. The other alternative, as it has been explained to me, is that they will add an eighth team. Now, my question would be, if they're adding an eighth team, therefore the Chiefs are the number one seed, but they have to play like everyone else, are they adding an eighth seed in the NFC as well? All of that seems to me, I guess I'm okay with either way. I can't imagine the Players Associations are not going to find fault with this somehow. Good on the fact that an eighth team comes in, or a 15th and 16th team comes in, because that's more players, more teams, more revenue, et cetera, et cetera. But bad in plenty of other ways. I have a feeling it's going to end the way that speculation went to begin with, and that is, sorry, Kansas City wins on Sunday. They're the number one seed based on winning percentage. It's the way it goes. Bills still need to win, so they're the number two seed, so seeding falls for those teams as it is supposed to. That's a long diatribe. That's what I know. Either one of those scenarios will be okay with me, that seem as reasonable as you can get. None of it's fair, but this is like an earthquake. This is God. This is, something happened to a human being, and there is no way to really fix this.
No, I mean, I've heard crazy stuff where you single out. Now, this was prior to more news coming out today, but they talked about next week having Cincinnati and Buffalo play and the NFC wildcard weekend to happen. Then the following week, the NFC will take off and the AFC wildcards will play, because you have that extra week before the Super Bowl. Now, the funny thing is, Brady, you're spot on this, and I had a hard time because I'm not even thinking this, okay? The three teams that we're really concerned about is Buffalo, Kansas City,
right,
and the Chiefs. No,
right.
Buffalo, Kansas City, and Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
But on Sunday, the Ravens with a win would win the division. And we're not talking about that. I don't expect them to win. I don't think a lot of people do. They're 7-point underdogs. But the fact is, because I said the same thing, well, don't worry about it. Because now they're talking about, if the Chiefs do win by default and the number one seed, if the Bengals or Cincinnati get to face them in the championship, they're talking about playing on neutral site now.
Can't imagine that either. And that's fine. And listen, as a Chief, I'll be fine. The Chiefs would live with that too. They want the number one seed, right? So the Chiefs would live with that as well. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine changing venues. You know what I mean? You have commitments to your fans, right, and to their ability to buy tickets to a home game if the home game is coming. I can't imagine. Let's keep it short. I can't imagine with the lawyers that any of this shit is going to fly outside of, sorry, the next thing you do when a game is canceled and you can't make that game up is you play by winning percentage as far as the seedings go. And that's the way it's going to go. It's
because you can't add an 8 team now because of teams have already set themselves up. Well, if I knew there was an 8 team going to be added, therefore we would have played differently last week. Okay, and I'll close with this on this topic. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen could give a rat's ass where the hell they're playing, because all 3 of those quarterbacks can win on the moon. It doesn't matter. So at this point, yeah, it'd be nice. We've talked about it all year. Buffalo finally needed to get the 1 seed to get the bye. So you had to go to Buffalo. The NFL was going to eat it up. Snowstorms, no shirts, breaking tables. You got to go and win in Buffalo. Well, if it gets taken away and it is Kansas City, I don't think Buffalo, Cincinnati are worried about it either.
They're all 3 cold weather towns. All 3 of those towns are used to it. All 3 of those quarterbacks and those teams know that they're really good. The Bengals were in the Super Bowl last year. The Chiefs have been in 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls, and everybody thinks the Bills are the only team. You know that everybody thought prior to the season starting, the Bills were the shoe-in to be the AFC champion and go to the Super Bowl. These are 3 borderline in today's salary cap game great teams, borderline great teams. Along with, let's just say at this point, I'll put San Francisco in that batch, even though they're running with the last pick of the draft, and I'll put Philadelphia. They're based on the depth of their teams, how good they are coaching, and everything all considered. There are 5 pretty damn close to great teams, and yet they could all potentially lose as well. It's going to be a really good playoffs. Let's get to it. On Saturday, the Chiefs then will travel to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. Raiders are getting 9. As I looked at this morning, 52.5 was the over and under. And the Chiefs, it looks like, are looking at a gift, but they'll have to finish it off most likely to make it official by winning this game. Chiefs have played a lot of really close games against some teams that you would think that they would be handling. They look a little soft on defense, and they do look more and more like they're missing the big playability of Tyreek Hill, because everybody's playing shell coverages, 2 and 3 safeties, nickel and dime against them all the time and making Pat throw 6-yard passes. And with Hardman out and no Tyreek right now, there's not a lot of knock off the top speed on that Kansas City team.
Yeah, I had a opening number of 9.5 and 52. It did go to 7.5 for a little while. It's back to 9, okay. 9.5 with a 52. Vegas has got this basically at 31-21, 31-20, somewhere in there. I expect Kansas City to get out early. Raiders gave them a scare in the first game this year.
Yeah.
Listen, Stidham had a great week last week, just like Minshew did the first week at Dallas, and then he kind of stunk the week after. Now you have a full tape on Stidham. Listen, the NFL, if they karma, whatever, and I'm not rooting against Patty, I'm not rooting against your Chiefs.
No, I got you.
But if the NFL ever had one time, it would be the Raiders to knock off the Chiefs, then they'd feel a lot, but I expect the Chiefs to win by 10 or more. I do.
Well, and listen, the AFC West is damn tired of the Chiefs, who won the division 7 years in a row, who own winning records over, I think they beat Denver 14 or 15 games in a row. They're 13 out of 15 or something against the Raiders. I mean, not only are they winning this division, they have owned these teams' asses. So the Raiders played a really good offensive game last week. Their running back's going to win the rushing title. That's something. They got their tight end back. There are records that have already been broken by their new receiver, Devontae Adams. So the Raiders want to wreck this for the Chiefs. And you're right. If there is a typical professional sports story that may come out of the weekend, it's probably going to be that after all the gifts that the Chiefs apparently are going to be given, the Raiders kick the shit out of the Chiefs. That absolutely, I'm with you. That feels like something that now I'm not the professional gambler. You are. And I wish Dave Sherapan was here to ask him this as well. what kind of consideration does the book give to these scenarios where your spidey senses are up and the hairs on the back of your neck you're up are saying, this is going to go badly for the better team?
Well, I'll tell you right now what they're saying here. Let me pull that up for you as we speak. I wanted to get a number for you just to see what the money line is actually saying here for us. And there we go. Kansas City minus 465. The Raiders plus 385. So you can get almost 4-1 on the Raiders to win the game outright. So Vegas is, as Dave would say, our good friend and buddy Dave Sharpan would say, hey, no rushing to the window. We got plenty of windows open over here. We'll open a few more for you. Relax. All Raiders keep on coming. The 4-1 favorites, actually almost 5-1 favorites. You got to put up $465 to win 100 just for the Chiefs to win.
So as a Chiefs homer and historian, I will also tell everybody that wants to rush to the window for the Raiders, because this story has all kinds of tense potential overtones to it. The Chiefs don't lose under Andy Reid in December and January. They don't lose at the end of the season. They win these games, and Mahomes is right on the precipice of winning MVP. And while I've never heard him be selfish for a minute, I promise you, the fire burns for Pat Mahomes to win that MVP award. He may have gotten a little lucky with the injury to the Philadelphia quarterback. I'll give you all that. But he heard all the rumors, and so did the Chiefs, that without Tyreek, the offense would be much more average. It would be tough. And then you looked, and when the season began, the Chiefs had the first or second toughest schedule in the NFL. As it has worked out, they certainly haven't had that, because everybody thought Denver certainly and the Chargers would be very good, and probably Oakland. There were a lot of people thought maybe all four of these teams make the playoffs. So, things have flipped a little bit in the Chiefs' favor in some manner, and they've won some close games, which gets bitched about here in Dallas all the time too. This 12, soon to be 13-win Cowboys team has played some poor teams too close, and as fans, we all tend to critique these games. But I will tell you, Mahomes will be ready. My question as a Chiefs fan, someone who studies this, is, will the rest of the defense? Chris Jones is really good, and there's really not anybody else in that defense I can point out and say, that guy also stirs it up, right? It was Chris Jones and the Honey Badger, really, to be honest with you, for a couple of years, where he sort of had the big play in the back end that he would get made. Chris would make the big play in the front. Doesn't seem like enough to me when you're going to take on Buffalo and Cincinnati, but we'll see. Titans at the Jags. The Titans it's all gone wrong for them. Losers of 6 straight. The Jaguars have won 4 straight. And I do remember reading back in September, after the Jaguars had lost maybe 4 or their 5th loss in a row, Doug Peterson, the NFL had a camera in their locker room after, and he said, I told them when the end of the season comes around, they're going to be in a position to make the playoffs. That was after they lost 5 in a row, and they were 2-7, I think. And we all thought he was crazy, but here they are, not only in a good position, they're going to be at home, and they're going to be a heavy favorite against a team essentially without a quarterback. I mean, I don't know, disrespect to Joshua Dobbs, but it's his second start in 6 years. He was actually pretty decent last week. Derrick Henry comes back. He gave up the chance to potentially win another rushing title by sitting next week and probably nursing an injury that he needed to nurse. So I always think the Titans are well coached, and that this would not absolutely shock me if the Jaguars lost this game or the Titans won it. Not absolutely. So what do you got at Jags minus 6.5 and the over and under at 40?
Yeah, I had a 6.5 for the 38.5. It's 6.5 and a 40 now at our friends at the Circa. Dobbs is starting. Malik Willis is just not ready right now, so they're going to go to the second start with Dobbs. King Henry will be back. Coach Vrabel has won a lot of games on the road in his past. He's able to motivate and get this team. When we have said the Titans are done, they shock the world. When they're put in spots where we expect them to win, a la last year, after the number 1 seed, after the bye week, and 5 turnovers later, Joe Burrow and the Bengals win. I'm expecting to see a different Titan team. Listen, no one's harder than the Jags other than the 49ers, okay? Trevor Lawrence is that quarterback that we thought he would be. Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Travis Etienne, Ingram at tight end has had
Ingram's
a nice.
been awesome. Yeah.
He has. So this line is trending down. So if you want the Titans, you better grab them now because I'm seeing 6s and 6.5s. Buy the half point, take it up to 7. That money line compared to the Chiefs opened at Jacksonville minus 290, now 280, and you can get the Titans at plus 240. If you take the Titans plus the 6.5, 7, sprinkle a little pizza and beer money on them plus the 240. Because listen, I would not be shocked if the Titans not only covered but won this game outright.
Yeah, this seems the spot where the Titans have had a little bit of rest because there was a lot of people that didn't play for them last week. They had 3 or 4 starting defenders that didn't play, and notice they actually played pretty well on defense last week. This is a well-coached team who knows how to play tight, close games where they don't turn the ball over. That'll be the interesting thing is, do you believe Joshua Dobbs can be as efficient as he was last week and or maybe slightly better and not turn the ball over? That's really what it's going to come down to. When they get an early turnover or 2 out of Joshua Dobbs, this thing's probably a run. But if he doesn't turn the ball over, this game could easily be 13-12 as we watch the last 4 minutes of the game. No doubt about it. Ravens at the Bengals. The Bengals are -7. Certainly a potential letdown for the Bengals. On the other hand, maybe it's not a letdown because it's not the most important thing what their seeding is. It's the most important thing that their teammate is up and going to be watching the damn game and probably tweeting about it. They may get the biggest lift that humans could possibly get to see their friend back and rooting for their team and doing well. So it's at Cincinnati. Cincinnati I had this morning -7, 40.5 over and under. That low over and under, just like the one in the Titans game, leads me to believe people think the Ravens have a real chance in this game as well.
I think, again, I just looked at my notes. Lamar Jackson, questionable.
Everything that I'm hearing, he's probably not playing.
Yeah,
he hasn't practiced yet.
No, I expect Hundley there. You know, I said this kind of tongue-in-cheek, and I don't have the brackets in front of me. I'd be looking to see how do I not face the Chargers. That's what I'm saying to myself because the Chargers and Herbert – have started to play a lot better. Their defense is getting healthier. Add, Boza. Add the other guy on the other side that I'm drawing a blank to, the other pass rusher. All of a sudden, Big Mike's healthy. Keenan Allen's healthy. I wouldn't want to face him. So I think the Bengals just take care of business, win the turnover battle. I think the Ravens can't score enough. I really don't. And you know what? If I am Harbaugh, maybe this is a blessing. Maybe I say, you know what, Lamar, go to Miami next year. Go back to Florida. Let us blow this offense up and let's get a real offense in here because it was like watching paint dry again. I know it was the Steelers last week. I get it. Those two are, first 1 to 17 wins. I get all that. But in today's NFL, how far can you go not being able to score more than 17 points? So I think the Bengals take care of business. It's a 42. Brady, I'll go 24-13 Bengals.
So you've poked the bear a little bit. If you don't want to watch the Ravens play Ravens football, which they've been doing under Harbaugh's tenure almost the entire time, does that also mean that you are not paying Lamar Jackson or even putting the franchise tag on him, that you're trying to trade him his rights somehow? What are you doing? Because this team is what it is. The defense has gotten better. They are now number 2 in the NFL in the red zone, stopping people in the red zone. I can see this game being 13-12 with 4 minutes left in this game as well. The Ravens defense is up for this. They've got 2 healthy running backs. And the one thing I didn't do research-wise, and I apologize, is see where the Bengals sit right now against the run. But if it's somewhere in the middle of the pack, like I anticipate that it is, I can see this being a lower scoring game. You said the line's gone up a couple of points with the over and the under, but I can see that scenario.
Well, I compared it today on one of our shows to the Giants, and people looked at me like, what do you mean by that? Well, the Giants were in the same predicament, meaning are we going to extend Daniel Jones? Is Daniel Jones going to be our quarterback moving forward? Well, the fact that Barkley stayed healthy this year was a big factor.
Yeah.
Okay. None of the wide receivers were, but I think Daniel Jones has earned the right so they can franchise him and franchise him again, just like the Ravens. Now you're going to start to talk about injury. And this is not the first time Lamar's been injured. yeah, you can franchise him and not have to do anything offensively. Maybe add another wide receiver. Expect your defense to get better, and you can stick to the script this year and the following year if you want to franchise him. What I was basically saying is it's a hard thought process, but just rip the Band-Aid off and say, you know what? In today's NFL, we need a quarterback, A, that's not going to be injured, but B, that can throw the ball a lot more consistently. And I'm not taking away anything from Lamar. He was a former MVP, but I'm going to turn the script to you. If you were the GM of Baltimore moving forward, you have an opportunity either to give him a contract extension or franchise him the next 2 years, and you saw what has happened this year. Are you going to stick with Lamar?
I wouldn't insinuate anything because I don't know anything about this, but I have from a distance wondered curiously how it is that he hasn't practiced since December 4th. And I know from what I've seen of the competitor, I don't think what in the back of my mind I'm thinking. On the other hand, it's a brutal game. He's been very, very good, won an MVP. He is a limiting type player to, if you trade for him, you're changing your entire team's outlook on how they play offense. You just are. So his total number, even if he won MVP this year, wasn't going to be a Mahomes number. I don't think it was going to even be close to that, because the idea of competition among other teams that may want to sign him or trade for him or however that would go is going to be less than it would have been if Mahomes or Burrow or any of these other geniuses, these young Josh Allen, are available. But I also feel bad for that predicament in that the Ravens and Harbaugh went the direction they thought was the right direction to go with this quarterback and with this organization. And it matched with the fact that they're always able to play defense, just like the Steelers, right? Ben can be tall and fat for the last 3 years. And it doesn't really make any difference. He knows what he's doing, and the defense is going to hold everyone to 13 anyway. So it's not that much different. It's different if you stand naked Ben next to naked Lamar. That's different. You know, one's a damn tree, a Sasquatch that can't move, and the other one is a man who can run and move quicker than almost anybody in the NFL. So it's different, but it's similar in the way they approach football. I feel a little bit badly for Lamar because he got off to such a good start that I thought the number one competition for Mahomes this year when we started for MVP wouldn't be Josh Allen, that it would be Lamar Jackson, who's going to make a statement with a really good defense behind him where he gets the ball in good spots and a good running game, and he's going to go win MVP and get himself paid. And if he would have, to be honest with you, I believe, right? They would have had no choice. If that team wins 14 games under the number one seed, they probably have no choice. The fans would rebel forever, and you pay him. But if that's the case, he also would not have been hurt all year. So you'd think differently about what you're thinking at this point. Not sure if I said anything that made any sense or if it came to any resolution. I don't think that I want to flip this organization over and suffer through 2 or 3 or 4 potential down years in trading Lamar, in theory, or trading his rights. So I guess if I'm a little cool, the worst thing that I do is franchise him again, maybe 2 more years, and then move on.
Okay. And you thought of the MVP like a lot of people. Aaron Judge said, no, thanks. I'll let you keep that contract. Yeah. I'm going to bet on myself. Yeah. And a lot of people were thinking the same thing for Lamar. And he came out good.
Yeah, out of the gate, the first 2 or 3 games out of the gate, I'm like, see, this is what I thought. He's got heart and he can play. Whether you like watching how he plays or not, he can flatly play. He's already won an MVP. The defense is going to give him the ball where he wants it in these positive positions, right? And he's got a couple of weapons on offense, and that's really what I thought was going to happen. I'd love to know the chatter behind the scenes. I'd love to be part of the media in Baltimore, because I think I'd have a feeling about no practice since December 4th, and that would give me a better vantage point, but I don't have it. Patriots at the Bills. Bills are -7. Pats are still trying to make the playoffs and can with a little bit of help. The Bills, in theory, are getting screwed because of an injury to a mate that they watched on the field they thought had died. It's terrible. It is what it is. The over and under here is 42.5. The Bills are -7. And I guess the other thing we don't know, and I don't know whether we will know by Saturday when the Chiefs begin to play or Sunday when the Bills play, Will we have a resolution for how this is going to go? I would think so, right? Wouldn't you think tomorrow's Friday. Wouldn't you think tomorrow we know how this shit's going to turn out?
Yes.
Or is supposed to turn out, or what the function of it's going to be? I would think so too.
100%. Now, someone was talking today that Roger Goodell does have the authority to come in over the top and then basically almost like playing chess, but cheating chess, moving the pawns the way he wants it and yada, yada, yada. But I would say by tomorrow afternoon, Shefty will have it out. So it will give everyone, 24 hours before the Titans and Kansas City get ready.
Okay. So the Bills will know. The Patriots will know. The Patriots still trying to make the playoffs, are 2-4 in their last 6. And I kind of was on their wagon a little bit. There was a really good Mac Jones game maybe 5 weeks ago. And I really came out and said, I really think Mac Jones is the right guy for that coach, for this organization. Wasn't by any means insinuating that I saw the next Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. I do like his toughness and his grit. I do like him already calling out his teammates and being pissy at people when they don't play right or don't line up right. I got no problem with that, and especially considering who his coach is, because their expectations are such. They haven't been very good in the last 6 games. They really haven't. He hasn't been very good. Bill's kind of been a bitch. If you fumble, you don't get to play. Well, can I raise my hand and say, if Ramondre doesn't play, you're not fucking going to win. So I get it. Andy benches people all the time, too, when people fumble, and I do get it. But Stevenson has had an outstanding year and has really elevated himself to one of the better running backs in the league. You've got to ride that, and I'm sorry that he fumbled, and I didn't see it. Was it did he literally just take it and drop it on the ground and tell the other team to come get it, or did someone hit him? For Christ's sake, I feel like Belichick has had as much negative impact on that team this year as he has positive. And to be honest with you, I think the Bills are going to run their asses out of town in this game. I think the Bills are tired of listening to it, watching it. They're probably going to feel like they got lightly screwed in however this playoff scenario is going to go. And they ain't worried about Mac Jones or what boogers Belichick is going to do.
It's funny because you are correct. The Patriots defense has scored 4 weeks in a row. That's the only way they score. It's the only way they put points on the board, and they're 2-2 in those 4 games. The Mac Jones project, I've been negative towards that for a while. I liked the pick. We wanted Mr. Parsons that you got 2 picks before us. That was our pick that you guys stole. So Mac Jones fell to him. Made the playoffs last year. They made a business decision because the Patriots are all about business. They made the business decision. Hey, we'll take the 2 free coaches. We'll take Joe Judge, who the Giants are paying for, and we'll take Matt Patricia, who the Lions are paying for, and we'll install them as our defense and offensive coordinator. We won't give them titles, though, but we'll just plug and play. Mac was not happy in the preseason, the OTAs, whatever you want to say, has had a bad year. If you want my honest 2 cents, if they have an opportunity to get Jimmy G next year, I think – honestly, between you and I, Bill will say, hey, Mac, can we get a 4th, 5th, or 6th for you? Go cry somewhere else, and we're going to ride Jimmy G for the next 2 or 3 years.
But I was always Bill's guy. No doubt about that.
I'm looking at the numbers, and I just don't know what Bill team's going to show up. I don't know if they're going to use the, hey, let's rally for Damar on Sunday, or are they going to maybe be flat because the Patriots win and they're in. So playing for a seeding, which we'll already know the result of the Kansas City game. So let's play devil's advocate. Kansas City wins. Now, the Bills don't get the 1 seed. I don't know a loss and a Cincy win, even if they get the 2 seed now. And so the fact of the matter is you could get a flat Bill team versus a win and in for the Pats. Pats hang around, win late. They're in the playoffs. The Bills are the 2 or the 3 seed. It doesn't matter. So it's a real tough game, Brady.
Cincinnati, clearly of the 3 teams, the hottest team, the team that seems to be trending in the right direction on both sides of the football. The Bills have won a lot of games in a row. I think it's 6, but I've watched a good portion of them. They don't look right. They have a hell of a time scoring in the red zone. They're sort of pushing the ball around the field. There's numbers being put up between the 20s, as is typical in the NFL, but they're not scoring a lot of points. They're not winning by a lot in the last 5 or 6 games for the most part. They just don't look quite right. He doesn't look quite right. Every once in a while, still grabbing for the elbow a little bit, right? Still out trying to run people over. It all seems slightly off to me in Buffalo, as it does in Kansas City. And if you made me put money down without even telling me what the lines were on any of those three teams, it would be Cincinnati. And I don't give a shit where they're playing. That's how I feel right now as we head into week 18. The Jets are at the Dolphins. So the Jets have been eliminated. And really, Dolphins are -2 at home. The over and under 38.5. No Tua. As we know, the Jets are eliminated at 7-9. The Dolphins are almost shockingly back to 8-8. One that just looked like a month ago they were in challenge for the division title. There are so many little twisting stories here. We all thought Tua should have been finished back in week 3. He came back. He's unofficially gone through 3 concussions. Who knows how many more? I'm worried about that young man as much as I possibly can be as well. But these two teams, the Jets are still a good story for me. I think Robert Saleh is a good coach. They're going to figure out who their quarterback's going to be. I bet the Jets, as much as they say that they're going to stay with that young quarterback of theirs, Wilson, I bet in the offseason they change their mind on that. I really do. They've got a good defense. They have a fast team. They have a good running back who, if he recovers, they've got a lot to play for starting for next year. I can't imagine, to be honest with you, they're going to screw with Zach Wilson when that season comes around. But this game still offers the Dolphins a chance to get in.
Yeah, and it was funny because there was an actual flip where the Jets were 1.5 point favorites. Rumor had it, obviously we knew Tua was out and that Bridgewater is questionable, but rumor out there he wasn't playing, and the name, I think it was Mike Glennon, was going to be starting. It's now back to 2. That basically tells me it looks like Bridgewater will be playing. Again, I brought up the Lamar story. I'll bring up another story is last year, Sean Payton and Tom Brady were tied to Miami. And then the Brian Flores incident came out, then the suing. Payton retires. Tom comes back and plays for the Bucs. But keep an eye on that one because I cannot see Tua playing next year, at least for the start there. But with the way the numbers gone back and forth, I think the Dolphins find a way to win. It'll be a close game. I got an under-over of, where's my eyes here?
38.5, right?
Yeah, 38.5. So
yep.
They're telling you initially 20-17.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they give me, a 21-17, somewhere around there.
So the fans will know, and I'm sure you do, if it matters to you. Buffalo or Miami in if they win, and Buffalo beats New England. Those two scenarios seem relatively likely, and I still would like to see the Dolphins in. I'm enjoying their young coach and how they play football. The Jets can't get in anyway. A good place to play. Spoiler, right? The Jets will not roll over in this game. You can be certain of that. This will be a low-scoring, tough game. Bucks at Atlanta. Atlanta -4 at home over the Tampa Bay Bucks, where the over and under is 40. That's what I got this morning. Did I read it wrong?
What was that again? I see you just, I read your text and I think it was my actual spreadsheet that talks to me.
Oh,
and so
okay.
I just shut it off for you.
Okay.
I apologize there.
I thought I saw Bucks at Atlanta -4.
Yes, that actual number I had was a 7. Bucks have nothing to play for other than to stay healthy, and it went from a 7, which was the true opening number. I got right now a 4, some 4.5s with a 40.5.
So the Bucks have had they come in on a modest 2-game winning streak, of which they've had 3. Is it really your contention that the Bucks and the way they have been playing after one second half eruption last week are satisfied to welcome Dallas to town in 2 weeks, playing the way they're fucking playing? I can't imagine that. I can't imagine. I understand health, et cetera, but they played probably their best half of football all season, which is a backhanded compliment last week. I can't imagine Tom's okay with that, not that he's in charge, or that anybody's okay with that. I think the Bucks need to go to Atlanta and whip ass and go in with a 3-game winning streak into the playoffs and intimidate the shit out of the Cowboys, which quietly they probably will. I don't think they'll win. I think the Cowboys will win, but this is going to be a nerve-wracking game for the Cowboys if that's where they end up, and there are scenarios where they won't. But you know more than I do, so tell the people what the right thing to do is, because at this point, I want, off of what I think is going to happen, I want all the points I can get for the Buccaneers.
Vegas is hoping that everyone is thinking the way you are. Come to the window. Come take
I
the
am
Bucks.
a typical chump. I've been told that. That's why they put me in the middle between you and Dave all year.
As Dave would say, come on down.
Brady,
And
will it be easy? I understand.
and listen, the mindset is, hey, all of a sudden we saw Brady to Evans not once, not twice, but 3 times last week. It's like, wow, the chemistry is back, but it was just for one game. Tom and that team is like watching paint dry, and they've been gifted the 3 games just but the last 5 minutes. But I know this, as Dallas 2 weeks from now will be pooping their pants. Mike McCarthy and Dak, they'll probably be 4-point favorites. The whole world will be on Tampa, and we'll be waiting for the other shoe to fall in Dallas. For me, I won't be playing it. I only could play Atlanta here. Vegas is telling me clear as day which side it is. It's Atlanta here. But if Tom wants to play a half and put up a quick 20-21, God bless you, because that would end up being the right side of them.
Tyler Algier of Atlanta, by the way, needs 100 yards for 1,000 yards. And I find that remarkable. He's basically been the primary starting back of this team 9 games, and he's sitting at 1,000 yards, 4.8 yards a carry. Very impressive, because he didn't start off great with the few carries he got. He didn't look special. And all of a sudden he gets an opportunity because of an injury. And that's one of the really good stories going on in Atlanta. 100 yards is going to be tough against the Bucks, whether they're at home or not. But I'm rooting for that kid, because that's really been a nice finish for fantasy players as well. Cowboys at Commanders. And by the way, sidebar on this whole Cowboys thing. Listen, if the Cowboys happen to win and the Eagles lose and the Cowboys win the East, they're either going to be the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed. If they're the number 2 seed, they most likely welcome Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers to town in the first week, if they're the number 2 seed. Either that or they get Tom Brady. I promise you, this town, I will tell you, is already a flutter about all of this, because they don't want to play either one of them, right? These 2 quarterbacks have effed up this team forever. So one way or another, this Cowboys team is going to have to exercise demons, and I don't think they're bothered by it. But I will tell you, this massive fan base of 7.9 million Facebook followers and 7 million Twitter followers of hate and love are terrified of both of these quarterbacks. And we're going to get to Aaron Rodgers in a minute, who is rolling. And to be honest with you, I wasn't rooting for that either. Man Bun and Ayahuasca, I was ready for him to sit down. I really was. And damned if both of them are not going to be in the playoffs. So Cowboys at Commanders. Commanders are now out, which was news to their head coach. They are 7-point. They're getting 7 points at home. The over and under is 41 to the Cowboys. And, the other scenario is I sit here and do Off of the Helmets and talk Cowboys every week to people right here through East Coast Sports Investments, is I've wanted rest for this Cowboys team for 2 weeks. I have sort of not secretly, wanted them to rest for the last 2 weeks. Live with the 5 seed, go to Tampa, beat the team that you're better than, get Micah Parsons some time off. Playing with a club last week, running around, shouldn't even be on the field. Did you know the statistic? Who's going to win defensive NFC MVP, the San Francisco defensive end?
Bosa?
So Bosa's going to win a Defensive Player of the Year, which in the first 7 games it was going to be Parsons. Mm-hmm. Since it hasn't been. Do you know that it's Joey Bosa, right? Or is it Nick? San Francisco.
Joey is San Fran. Oh, is it Nick? Okay, and then
Nick. Okay. Either way, we apologize. I apologize for the inaccuracy, but I want to make a point here, and that is that I looked this up. Bosa, the San Francisco Bosa, who's going to win Defensive Player of the Year, has played 168 more plays this year than Micah Parsons. So you want to know why Micah Parsons is worn out and he's not getting 2 sacks in every game the last 5 games? He's fucking worn out. And
it's Nick Bosa.
Okay, so he's worn out. Listen, process that number. He's played 160 some more plays than Nick Bosa. Why has Nick Bosa been hot as hell with 11 sacks in his last 7 games and Parsons has 5? One's dead on his feet, the other's not. Now, you can also say that he may have a little bit more help in the San Francisco side. I don't necessarily agree with that. But those are massive numbers. They really are. Those are massive numbers. And the defensive coordinator for this Cowboys team told us last year If I line Micah Parsons up too much with his hand in the dirt against tackles, right or left, I'm going to have to take him off the field more because he's going to be worn out at 240 pounds. And probably his playing weight's probably around 240, going up head to head, getting chipped and beat on by 350-pound tackles. Can't do it. And what has he done? As this team's gotten more and more desperate for a defensive presence in the last 6 games, Micah Parsons has played way, way too many plays. And from a Cowboys perspective, this defense that we all thought was clearly top 5 all year long, clearly he is not right now. And I do put some blame on Dan Quinn.
Do you have more pressure on you playing at home versus Rodgers versus the road and playing the Bucs?
I think I don't know what the answer is. I don't really know. I know it's an easy which would you want. You want Rodgers at home because when you beat Rodgers at home, you get to play at home again. So that's an easy, and that's how I would sell it as a coach. Let Brady Tinker and the idiotic media have a field day, and your nervous fans, your fans that jump on and off the bandwagon, be nervous about whether it's Brady or whether it's Rodgers. We knew we were going to have to go through probably one of those guys anyway. These are demons we need to exercise. And if you're going to win a Super Bowl, you want to beat these teams. You're going to need to beat one of those 2 guys, and you're going to need to beat Philadelphia in the next round, most likely, and et cetera, et cetera. So this is what it is when you get here. What they're dragging around the Cowboys is the abject failure that everyone felt when they sort of couldn't get it going against San Francisco last year in round 1. That's what everyone's dragging around. So it's not so much which quarterback scares you most. It's even though we've won 12 games in a row, 12 games 2 seasons in a row here in Dallas, which hadn't been done since 95, 96, we're still dragging around the fact that in every fan's mind, it's been 26 years. And this is a shit the bed team. Well, I don't believe it is. I really don't. But I don't know if I have an answer for you, but I think they would like to play at home.
Okay.
Yeah. So I talked so much during this, I don't even know what you decided. Commanders are getting 7. The over and under is 41. Let's assume Dallas is playing everyone, which I think they are. Pollard's 12 yards short of 1,000, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Commanders don't have much to play for. And I don't even know Howell, the quarterback who's going to play. I don't even know his first name. I'm going to guess that it's Thurston. Now you tell me.
It's called Sam Howell, and played at North Carolina. Okay. You can count on the defense. You can count on probably a pick 6, whatever. Pollard obviously gets 1,000. And the line is 7 for a reason. You are playing a lot of your guys. I would venture to guess here, do some quick math here for you. Yada, yada, la, 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 la. Where are we here? It's down to a third. It opened at a 39.5 around a 41, 40.5. I'll say 24-13 Cowboys.
Okay. If Dave was here, he would have at least giggled at my guess that it was Thurston Howell that was the quarterback. Yeah.
I was trying to do some quick math. I was howling. Put it there. Listen, for the people watching here, for the people watching here, it's from Gilligan's Island. But Google that, and you'll understand. Great show.
Well, and watch a couple episodes and give us all the answer to the lifelong question, Marianne or Ginger, as well, if you would.
Marianne.
The Giants, I am with you on that one. I think I changed my tune on that some years ago as I got older, and I decided it was Ginger. And someone said, "Why is it Ginger?" I'm like, I want the sure thing at my age. The Giants at the Eagles. The Eagles are a 14-point favorite. I have not heard anything on whether their quarterback is playing, so I'll let me know. -14 for the Eagles at home, over and under of 43. Giants have very little to play for, only it is reminiscent, and I guess maybe everything for Giants fans isn't this a place to continue the momentum, because that's how we beat Tom Brady twice in a 10-year period in the Super Bowl. Don't you F up the Eagles, win this game, roll into the first round game, whoever it's going to be against, with a huge amount of momentum, a head coach that's now a superhero, a quarterback who's going to get paid, a running back who's comeback player of the year, and win this damn game, don't you?
Well, last week, the Eagles were 5-point favorites against the Saints.
Yep.
And our guy, Dan Alexander from Newbie Talks from Philly, gave us the inside scoop. And by that number, I said Hurts ain't playing. He says there's no way in hell he's playing. Well, this line's 13.5 and 14 for a reason. Jalen's playing, and it's going to be early and often. The Giants are in the playoffs. Head coach, great job. People are calling for him for coach of the year. He won't get it. Barkley stayed healthy. Daniel Jones got himself a new contract, or at least the franchise tag for the next 2 years. The Philadelphia Eagles lead the NFL in second quarter scoring. I would look for the Eagles' first half play here. You can get it at 7.5 on DraftKings. Some are 8, some are 9. But I look for Hurts to put up a little first quarter rust, second quarter burst, and the Eagles will have the number 1 seed after this is all said and done.
I agree with that. I'd like to know in New York what they're going to do. I'd be curious if he comes out and says we're playing and we're going to do all we can do to carry a winning streak into the playoffs. Then I will tell you I will be behind the Giants and I'll take all of those 14 points that I can possibly get. Lions at the Packers. All of a sudden, this is a big game. I wonder. This is where you talk about the fans again. Aren't Lions fans sitting at home going, "Are you effing kidding? We beat them. They were 2-6 or 3-6. We'd exercise that demon. Our team's on the way up. Their team's on the way down. And damned if we don't have to, the last game of the season, go to Green Bay, and we've already been eliminated. I think, right? Aren't the Lions? Yeah.
No, Lions come down to that Seattle.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So if the funny thing is,
they'll know when they get on the field. That's right.
If Seattle wins, the Lions are out. So the Lions play spoiler to the Packers because the Packers win and they're in. If Seattle loses, then the winner of the Lions and Packers is in.
Right. Interesting. I'll root for anything that has to do with the Lions and anything that has to do with Ayahuasca losing. Give me what's going to happen in this game. Packers I had this morning -4.5 at home, playing very well. And really, to my naked little eye, who's watched more Green Bay football than I want to, the Christian Watson getting over the Mackie Sasser and the Chuck Knobloch yips has been the single thing that sort of turned that offense that everybody was saying Aaron just flatly can't play with these bums because they're not good enough. Watson turning around looks like a late first, mid-second round pick if you stood here right now, especially if Aaron's playing next year for fantasy players. Am I a little early? Maybe
you're just a tad early, maybe early third there, but he's got speed to burn. He's had a great year. After the first play of the year, 80-yard bomb, it goes right through his hands.
Right.
This initially was a Packers all-day number, 4.5, 4. Maybe by the hook to 5. I think win, lose, or draw by Seattle that the Lions are live here. I think the Packers have got the world by, hey, listen, Mr. Rogers is back, win and in, and they got that little mojo going, but don't sleep on this Lions team. I would have respected the Packers more if they were 7, 7.5. They're 4, 4.5. Live dog here on the Lions.
Agreed. Lions have won 7 of 9. That team is relatively healthy. That offense is playing good football. They got leaders. That head coach is doing a great job. Them, along with the Jets, are a couple of the more interesting, fun teams to watch in the coming teams. I'm with you. No Monday night game, correct? I looked and looked. There is. Okay, so that's always weird. All right, NBA season really officially starts in late January, right before the Super Bowl. At least that's what happens here in Dallas. Good teams to bet on as you do your job right now. Boston was going upside the head of Dallas. If Luka doesn't score 50, Dallas can't beat a good team. There's real problems here in Dallas, actually. Boston, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, genuine teams that people are betting on at this point in that conference.
Yeah, it was Boston early, came out guns a-blazing. Milwaukee just even keel, when's Giannis playing? When's he out?
Yeah.
Middleton. They're the team that we said preseason would be coming out. Then all of a sudden, Brooklyn and Jacques Vaughn come together. They had won 12 in a row. They've decided to play basketball. Mm-hmm. So if you want my seedings right now, it's Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and then the Celtics. Again, Celtics get bitch slapped by Denver. They have had a hard time out west. Whether it's the Clippers, whether it's, the Lakers, Phoenix, whatever. The East is where it's at. I go Bucks, Brooklyn, Celtics. You can put with Brooklyn, I guess, but right there, those are the three hot ones in the East.
Mavericks have been hot. They lose at home tonight to Boston by 30. In the West, Denver, Memphis, and New Orleans, as we sit here on Thursday night, all have the same record. Dallas has gone on a little run because Luka just came out and was Santa Claus all throughout the holidays. The basket was just huge, a wash tub for him. And Dallas coming on, but being close to this and knowing what's on this team, as much as they finally let their new acquisition play a little bit, the Mavericks are a player short, maybe two. Kemba Walker just doesn't look like he is healthy. I also wonder, I mean, he came in there and it's like his third game here he played and he started, Luka didn't play, and he had 30 and 13. And yet 2 or 3 games since, it looks like he's hurt and he can't play. Those kinds of things are weird to me. I've been a decent athlete my whole life. Either you are or you aren't.
He did that in Boston. He did that in New York. He gives you that one flash, like you're all excited, and then he's off for 2 weeks because of his knee or something. Out west, you nailed it. Now Zion out for 3 to 4 weeks at least. He can't stay healthy. We're looking to get that Denver team healthy, and Memphis had gone on a great run. Again, you see, we didn't talk about Golden State. We didn't talk about Phoenix. Yeah. And now, of course, we haven't talked about the Lakers, who now LeBron's out, AD's out. It's a mess out in the West.
And I like the Clippers roster and depth when it's healthy. Give me a little Clippers feeling.
No, that was it. The smart money before the season started was all on the Clippers. Right. They are long and strong. The problem with them is come playoff time, is Paul George and Kawhi both going to play. Now, if you needed to dive into the West right now for the playoffs and your championship, it's the Clippers. Take your Clipper money now and just hope that those two guys are ready. Otherwise, you're just hoping on injuries, no injuries, injuries, no injuries.
Looking for a fantastic game, TCU versus Georgia. Looking for a lot of these NFL games to really have some. I think Chiefs Raiders will be interesting. I think Titans Jags will be interesting. Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers, Patriots, Bills, Jets and the Dolphins, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants, Eagles, and Lions, Packers. Pretty good week. Pretty good final week for the NFL. The NBA heating up a little bit, and I can't wait for the NCAA championship game. Pretty good time to be us.
No doubt about it. Of what transpired on Monday, now to get to where we are today, the great news that we've heard the last 48 hours or so. So now it's kind of business back to normal. And me being the dumb guy that I am, sometimes I says, well, why don't they move this game to Monday and then move that game? I forgot the NCAA championship game is on Monday. Duh. Right. So you are correct.
Right. Buddy, I enjoyed it. Very good stuff. Happy holidays to you and your family and your lovely bride, all your children. I'm happy to be doing this with you. It's a nice, pretty good show for us on the 2023 kickoff show for Sportsbook Confessions. A few reflections for you as well. We'll be back for you Tuesday night. Let's just do this right here on the air. Tuesday night works for me. That all right with you for a little reflections?
That's fine. Yep.
Let's do that. Let's plan on Tuesday night for the fans, and then we'll do it again either Thursday or Friday. So we'll have 2 shows for everybody next week. You need to be here. We're marginally funny and entertaining, and Jeffrey Dawson had one hell of a 2022. If you want win a little money, you want a little angle, you want to know what's really going on, this guy on my left as you look and right as I look and whatever has had a good year. Buddy, I enjoyed it. I'll see you next week.
I enjoyed it. And quick shout out to our other guy, Mr. Dave Sharapan. It was great to catch up today. Love you to death.
Yep.
We're hoping nothing but the best. Everything's going to work out, and we can't wait to see you at some point back in the Sportsbook Confessions.
Absolutely. Godspeed to all of your family, David. I know you're going through some stuff, and we love you very much. So I want to be back in the middle. It's a lot better when I can talk less and I have 2 smart guys around me. I look so much better. All right, buddy. Happy New Year's to you. See you Tuesday.
We will see everyone on